Happy Star Wars Day, everybody! May the 4th be with you. Big news this week in a galaxy far, far away. The cast of Star Wars Episode 7 has finally been announced. Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, Peter Mayhew, Kenny Baker, and Anthony Daniels will all be returning to their roles. The old cast is expected to pass down the torch to a new set of protagonists, which I assume will be John Boyega, Daisy Ridley, and Oscar Isaac. Adam Driver will be one of the villains of the movie if earlier rumors of his casting hold true. Also cast for the movie are Andy Serkis, Domhnall Gleeson, and Max von Sydow. More cast members are expected to be named in upcoming weeks, and in spite of rumors that the movie may get pushed up, the official release date remains December 18th, 2015. And now for something a little different. As we all know, the Star Wars Extended Universe officially came to an end with the announcement that all of it will be considered non-canon for future projects. As of today, the only official canon of the Star Wars universe are the 6 movies and the Clone Wars TV series. For many of you out there, this is a disaster. And I'm sure you've heard that condescending line, "Well, it's not like you can't read those stories anymore." It gets thrown around every time there's a major continuity reboot, but you're not going to hear it from me because you and I both know that's not the point. It's not just about being able to enjoy these stories as they are. Having them recognized as part of the overall mythology is a major part of the appeal. If it wasn't, Star Wars wouldn't be a $4 billion brand. However, what I want to do this week is take a look at what this new policy means for the extended universe from a practical standpoint. What's really changed between then and now? Let's start off with Kotor. When it comes to the Knights of the Old Republic era, there probably isn't much to worry about as far as continuity goes. Mostly portrayed in video games, this little corner of the Star Wars universe is set thousands of years before Anakin Skywalker was a glimmer in the Force's eye. With such a minimal connection to the rest of Star Wars continuity, stories of this era likely won't be affected by the new status quo. After all, it's not like BioWare is going to shut down the Old Republic servers or stop producing content because of this. And even if it is considered an alternate Star Wars reality, let's face it, that's basically what it's been from the start anyway. Heck, making it an alternate reality makes more sense than trying to explain how a galactic civilization has gone 4,000 years without any significant technological advances. Next up, we got stories from the era of the Prequel Trilogy. This one's a rough era, but it always has been. The good news is that many of the stories created in this era were already plotted to work within the movies without getting in their way. For instance, my favorite character from this time is Quinlan Vos, the Jedi equivalent of Jack Bauer, who did a lot of undercover work during the Clone Wars. Quinlan Vos' story through the Clone Wars is pretty self-contained, so it'll be difficult for future stories to really conflict with it. Considering he's already made an appearance in the Clone Wars, odds are fair that if we ever do see him again, he'll be left relatively intact. On the other hand, the Clone Wars already changed the backstories of Darth Maul and Asajj Ventress, so if anything, the new policy really hasn't changed anything in that regard. The same will no doubt be true for Star Wars Rebels in regards to stories set between the two trilogies. Any previously written material about the early days of the Empire and the origins of the Rebellion will probably get bulldozed by Rebels and related media. 2 novels set between Episode 3 and Rebels are already on their way. But, again, this was gonna happen anyway. If anything, declaring the extended universe non-canon only makes official what was already a reality. Still, discarding the tales of random Jedi that weren't in the movies is one thing. Discarding stories about Luke, Han, and Leia is quite another, which brings us to the era of the original trilogy. A lot has been written about the events that take place between the first 3 Star Wars movies. In fact, Brian Wood's Star Wars comic, which takes place between A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back, will be among the last Star Wars comics to be produced by Dark Horse. Ironic that it'll be considered non-canon before it's even completed. As of right now, the only official canon story set in this era is the upcoming novel Heir to the Jedi, which itself was supposed to be the part of a trilogy that is also no longer considered canon. But does it really matter? Just like the stories written around the prequels, these are mostly self-contained tales that are designed to avoid bumping into major story elements. So yeah, Shadows of the Empire may no longer be considered canon, but did anybody ever expect Dash Rendar to be mentioned again anyway? And until a future work says otherwise, it's safe to assume that Wedge Antilles continued kicking ass after blowing up the second Death Star. But now we're getting into the main event because Episode 7 is going to run headlong into the new Jedi Order and one of them isn't walking away. Everything from the Thrawn trilogy onward is getting wiped out to make way for the galactic adventures of Golem and Bill Weasley. On one hand, this means we've lost Mara Jade, the Solo Twins, and one of my personal favorites, Cade Skywalker. On the other hand, Chewbacca doesn't get a moon dropped on him anymore, and Boba Fett is still dead. For now, at least. Now, even the Lucasfilm people don't know exactly how this is going to play out, so not all hope is lost. Maybe we'll get a Mara Jade mentioned in Episode 7. Maybe J.J. Abrams will pay respect to the franchise and try not to step on the toes of... cripes. Okay, well, that's about enough of that for now. May the 4th be with you, happy Cinco de Mayo, and have a great week.